This conference will now be recorded.
Don't see Mayor Woodbury on the line. He is the chair. Does someone else want to chair it? Deputy Mayor Milne maybe, or if someone else is wanting to chair?
Well, I can, if that's what you'd like, Madam Clerk.
Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
I can't hear you,
If
Barb.
he's willing.
I can't hear you, Barb. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. The phone isn't muted. Anyway, I would move that we appoint member Brian Milne as chair in the absence of Chair Woodbury.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Bishop? All
Yep.
in favor? Or anyone opposed, I should say?
Aye.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Milne, I believe you have the speaking notes. If not, we can send them your way.
I have them here. I just wanted to bring the agenda up here real quick.
Okay.
This is Committee of Adjustment, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Are we good to go? Yep. Okay. All right. I'll call this meeting of Committee of Adjustment to order. My name is Brian Milne. I'm the chairperson, or the deputy chairperson of the Committee of Adjustment. And I'll call this meeting to order at 9:02 on September 22. So it is. The committee members include members of council. However, we sit at this table as the Committee of Adjustment and not as members of council. Our jurisdiction lies solely with matters of consents and minor variance applications. The secretary of this committee is Alicia Milne. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variances and consents within the Township of Southgate and is held under the provisions of the Planning Act 1990. This hearing will be in accordance with the Provincial Planning Act, the Municipal Act, and the Township of Southgate official plan. Can I have confirmation of the agenda? I don't have the list of movers and seconders. Lindsay, or Alicia, did we do that ahead of time or?
No, it's not
No?
provided ahead of time.
Okay. So I need a motion to confirm the agenda. Councillor Martin Shipston, second. Barb DeBreen, thank you. Anyone opposed? No, that is carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest related to any matter on the agenda today? Don't see any, but if one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can declare it at any time. I need a motion. Are there minutes from the? Yes, there are. Minutes of the July 21st Committee of Adjustment meeting. Would someone care to move adoption of those minutes? Jason, thank you. Seconder? Jim Frew, thank you. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not seeing any. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed to the hearings now, the reports. I'll ask anyone speaking about an application to state their full name and address for the record. Please keep all remarks relevant to the consent or minor variance application before us, as the Committee of Adjustment has no jurisdiction on any other matters. All material submitted to the committee for viewing will remain the property of the Committee of Adjustment and will be available for public viewing in the application file and may be placed online. Please direct all remarks and questions to the chairperson of the committee. This will enable the hearing to be conducted in an organized manner. So the first file to be considered this morning is CL 2021-024, consent file B3-20, William Penny, conditions of consent extension. Let's see now.
Chair Milne, this one won't have a normal notice and stuff. I just brought this report forward as asking the committee for an extension to this one. The committee heard this one back in September of last year. So they are working on the conditions. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this is your report, so I should have let you go right from the get-go. Sorry.
No, so that's okay. That's okay. It's odd to see separate reports on these meetings. So yes, this report, it's for consent file B3-20 William Penny. And his consent was approved by the committee last September. And so that means a year to the date would be actually tomorrow. So it was the 23rd of September last year. So a year to the date tomorrow, the conditions would lapse. Mr. Penny is working on the conditions. I've heard from the surveyor who's actually on the line here today. I asked Stephen to be present to speak to any questions today that I couldn't answer properly. So we're just asking for a one-time extension until the end of the year, and Stephen's quite confident that the conditions will be met, and then the file would be closed. So I'm not, if the committee would like Stephen to elaborate, I think that would be good if they should allow that.
All right. Well, first let's have the motion on the table, and we'll proceed from there.
Yeah.
So the motion is, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive staff report CL 2021-024 as information, and that the committee grant a one-time extension to meet the conditions of consent for application B3-20 William Penny with a final date of December 31 of this year to meet all conditions as approved at the September 23, 2020 Committee of Adjustment hearing. Would someone care to move that, please? Martin, seconded by Jim. Okay. Stephen, do you want to elaborate a little bit on what's going on with this file, please? I can't hear you, Stephen. I don't know if anyone else can.
No.
It shows that he's unmuted on my screen. Nope.
No.
Well, we seem to have run into a bit of a glitch there.
Can you maybe try calling in, Stephen? Just use the phone-in credentials.
He's going to try that. Well, we're waiting for Stephen to call in. Is there any questions directed to the clerk, perhaps?
And I see that Jim Ellis and Bev Fisher are on the line too. They have a bit more information than I do as well. They may be able to help.
Okay. Martin. You're muted.
I'm hoping to hear from the actual surveyor. I was just wondering, you know, it's been a year. What's left for the surveyor to do in the next 3 months or whatever it is? And, you know, did they start late in the original year date given, you know?
Right.
So it'd be good to hear.
Yep.
Maybe Jim has an answer to that. I don't know. Seems a lot of stuff can get blamed on COVID, but if it's just a simple.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now,
Yep.
Stephen.
Okay. Seems to be an echo. So we've been contracted by Mr. Penny to prepare a grading/drainage plan on the property, as well as a reference plan. So the grading plan, I apologize for taking so long to get it done, but we've been having a bit of problem with getting information from the County of Grey and just basically the design, because the property is being so flat. So we contracted the County of Grey transportation. I spoke to Jim Stevenson last week, and we were trying to I think you're aware of the problem with the water in the back of the property. We were trying to solve that problem by taking the water out to the front and putting it into the catch basin. The County of Gray shot that idea down. They said that the catch basins are for the drainage of the road, not for the drainage of the lot per se. So what we're doing is designing a structure at the back to keep the water on Mr. Penny's property. That's the only solution that we can see to at least solve the problem of water going onto his neighbor's property, and as I say, keep the water on his property. The reference plan will reflect the one condition in regards to the 3-meter easement at the back. Right now, it may need to be a bit larger than that to accommodate the structure that we're planning. So we're planning to on the grading/drainage plan that he build what we call a soakaway pit at the back, and to keep the water on his property.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. This isn't the first time I've run into this problem. The county seems pretty strident in what they want their water catch basins to be used for, but there are precedents for getting around that, Stephen. If you ask them about a project in Ayton, there might be a solution to that problem. But anyway, nonetheless, you've got a solution in front of us. Any questions for Stephen? I see Clinton's on the line now. Clinton, did you want to add something?
Steve, can you mute your phone if you're not talking? It's just creating feedback if you can.
My phone?
Yeah, if you can.
There we go. Okay, Clint, did you want to add something?
No, I'm okay with the extension. Let's just get her done as far as I'm concerned. Get the drainage plan in there so we can get the conditions met, and let's get going.
Drive on. Sure. Okay.
There's still
Any
a lot
other
of
questions from committee
there.
members? Not seeing any questions from committee. Are we prepared for the question? Okay. Anyone opposed? Not seeing anyone opposed. That is carried. So the extension has been granted. Thank you, Stephen, for your time. Sorry about the technology glitches, but I'm sure let's blame the county. So we'll do that. All right, moving right along then to the next file. Let's see, I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so the next file is B9-21, B8-21, B10-21, Sharon and Timothy Roberts, Concession 1, EPT Division 3, Lot 3, Geographic Township of Egremont. So now I got to go back across, find the file. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to do this morning, but oh, that's not it. Madam Clerk, do you want to read the purpose, effects, and the location of the subject land, please? Or Alicia, do you have that there in front of you?
Yeah, to Alicia.
I'm having trouble finding it here, sorry.
Yep, so the subject lands, Concession 1, EPT Division 3, Lot 3, Geographic Township of Egremont, alternatively described as 263071 Wilder Lake Road. The purpose is to sever 3 0.4 hectares or 1 acre lots from the 9.3 hectares or 23 acre parcel. The lots will have 44.19 meters or 145 foot of frontage on Wilder Lake Road and have a depth of 91.7 meters or 301 feet. The effect would be to create 3 new residential lots and zone them residential type 5. The retained lot would be rezoned to reflect a reduced lot area and frontage of the A2 zone. The retained lot zone would be restricted agricultural exception A2-XXX. EP boundaries may be adjusted based on Conservation Authority comments.
Excellent. Thank you, Alicia. So in broad terms, this is just east of Varney. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of an application? No, I don't believe we've seen that. Can I have clarification that the sign was posted, please?
Yes, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Okay, not hearing any. That's fine. I'll ask Clint Stredwick, our planner, to review all the comments received and present his staff report. Good morning, Clint.
Good morning, Chair Milne. Can I ask Alicia to just bring up the drawing or the sketch to share with everyone, just so that when I'm talking about it, before I read out the comments, they can have a look at it to see what we're talking about. So it's basically a request for 3 1-acre parcels within it. The subject lands are within the settlement area of Varney. So there we go. So they're within the settlement area of Varney in the official plan. So this is an area where the township is directing growth to, whether that be in the form of severances or subdivisions or new businesses, whatever the case may be. So the proposal by the landowner is to create 3 new lots along this side here. They've put forward the applications and a zoning application as well to accommodate that. So I'll just go through the comments now that we've received. There's quite a number of them. So the first one we have is from Bell Canada, and they have no concerns or objections. The next one is from the County of Grey. Now the County of Grey indicate that overall the county would recommend that detailed comments be received from the SVCA and that a decision be deferred until such time as an environmental impact study can be completed. Just so you know that actually has been completed, and I believe the EIS has been posted on the website. Public Works comments indicate that a safe access can be provided. It's a rural asphalt road in that section. A road widening will be necessary. And for entrance requirements, it says lot entrances will have to cut into the hill and may require more sloping or retainment of banks. And it says this section of Wilder Lake Road is a 50 km/h speed zone. So I guess that's important for safety as well. So continuing on then, we have SVCA comments. And the SVCA indicates that they've reviewed the materials, and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and consent applications are acceptable to the SVCA staff. So they've reviewed it against the provisions of the provincial policy statement and the EIS that was submitted. The Enbridge Gas indicates that They do have service lines running within the area, which may or may not affect the proposed severances. And typically, like they say, if it impacts these services, it may be that required to move them, and that would be at the cost of the owner's expense. Hydro 1 have no comments or concerns at this time. And that's all of the agency comments, but there are also a number of comments received from the public. So the first comment that I have is from James Martin, and he indicates, well, he and I had a lengthy conversation prior to this meeting, but I encouraged him to submit written comments as well, which he's done. So his first comment is regarding the existing topography of the proposed lots, and more specifically with regard to the significant elevation of the existing lands along all 3 lots. He's expecting that the existing elevations will be reduced somewhat to allow for the appropriate lot levels for driveways, foundations, etc. These changes could affect the water flow and possibly contribute to water blockages. This area is known for significant spring runoff, all downhill towards the village of Varney. I would hope that the proposed project will include an engineered grading and drainage plan to ensure proper drainage. He also indicates worthy of note is a potential safety concern in that there is a slight dogleg right in the roadway near the westerly limits of the Roberts property. And unless the westerly adjoining property is properly cut back, the homeowners or other traffic turning left from the residential driveways to proceed east on Wilder Lake Road may experience a degree of limited visibility and could negatively impact motorists traveling east and coming up on the vehicles exiting their driveways. So that's one of the letters he wrote. He provided some additional comments later on, and they were specific that he understands that with the three lots that you can do that by consent, but he's concerned that the retained lands I'll read what he says here. It says, should the applicant decide in the future to make further application for additional lots, it would be my contention that the more rigorous process of a plan of subdivision should then be required. The remaining retained lands would no doubt come under the scrutiny of the Ministry of Environment, as they include ponds, and Camp Creek also runs through it. So with regard to the retained lands, he hopes that they would remain in a natural, beautiful state and not for no further development on the retained lands. Okay, so those are his main concerns. They are included in the package. Further concerns that came in recently. So we have Allie Livingston, and she indicates that she is on a neighboring property and fronts on Wilder Lake Road. She indicates that the property is located uphill, and she's wondering how will excavation of the new lots affect erosion and runoff onto her property. Will it affect the water table? And because they're on a private well and septic system. She's also wondering about the flagging along the roadside inside the forest that they both share. They have concerns that some of the red tags are on trees that grow on their property. So I will comment on that. We did receive an email from Ms. Roberts there yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, addressing that specific concern. And she thinks that first of all, the red tags were not put there by her, the property owner. She believes they were actually put there by the when the fiber was installed down the road, or is going to be installed, whatever the case may be. But that's why they were flagged there, is for the fiber installation. They weren't put there by her by any means. So she just wanted to clarify that. The next comment we have is from John Woon. It says, we recently received notification of the proposed zoning and consents and would like to express our dissatisfaction in the proposal. We understand that the township looks at these situations from a perspective of fiscal opportunity rather than residential satisfaction. However, we would like you to consider the following before moving ahead with your proposal. Our property has been in the family for over 30 years. So when my wife and I decided to purchase the home from her parents, we did it with the intentions of making it our retirement home. We live in the hustle and bustle of city life, crammed into a subdivision flooded with noise, light pollution, endless streams of traffic, and nonstop construction. When we decided to purchase our property, we believed it highly unlikely that a subdivision would be built across the street. This conclusion was based on conversations with area property owners who in the past have been told their property could not be subdivided. This would include the owners of the approximate 50-acre parcel to the east of the subject property, who merely wanted to sever off a lot for their son to build a house. Although three houses are not technically considered a subdivision, they have serious concerns that the landowners plan to develop this property does not end with 3 lots. As Mr. Martin suggests, it is possible that the choice to apply for only 3 lots at the time might be to avoid the greater scrutiny of the subdivision application. We have made a very large investment in our home in the hope that we would live here for the rest of our lives. We don't believe it is unreasonable to ask the landowner to reveal the entirety of his plans rather than on a piecemeal basis. If we are to be subjected to a larger scale subdivision being constructed across the road from our home over the course of the years with the accompanying noise, dust, and traffic from construction vehicles, we need to know sooner rather than later. Armed with all the information, we will be able to decide if we will stay or continue to invest in our property and move elsewhere. That's that comment, and unless I'm mistaken, Alicia, I believe that's all the comments received. Did I get them all?
Yep, that is all that has been received.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Thank you, Alicia. Do members of the committee have any questions? Barb? You are, there you go.
There, just with, because I'm on the phone, I've got to do both. So thank you, Chair Milne, and through you to Clinton. There are a number of concerns, legitimate concerns about from the surrounding neighbors as well as expressed. When was the EIS received? It's only dated September 2021, and I haven't had an opportunity to review that EIS. So can you sum up how it addresses the concerns of erosion, well integrity of neighboring properties? What else was covered? Because it seems that it's been added since I reviewed all the other files and I didn't know to go back to look for the EIS. My apologies for not being adequately prepared.
No, it's quite all right. It wasn't received by the township until sometime this month, I believe. Of course, I knew they were working on it, but I didn't have a copy of it in my hand because from the outset we encouraged the property owner to converse with the the Conservation Authority and make sure if they are doing an EIS that they're going to be satisfied with it, because they're the ones who provide those comments. With respect to the drainage and those other concerns, an EIS doesn't cover that anyways.
Okay.
So I didn't really go through my report, but I will address some of the issues here. One of my recommendations for the consent is that a detailed engineered drainage plan, grading and drainage plan, pardon me, be prepared for the lots on sort of a comprehensive basis, so that those 3 lots then will be graded such that they're not going to negatively affect neighboring properties or the road. And with the size of the properties, I wouldn't expect them to affect neighboring wells or that, provided there's an adequate septic system in place for the properties, and our chief building official would issue a permit for the septic systems when the time came, and he would make sure that it's an appropriate one for whatever's being constructed.
Thank you. Maybe we should wait until after you review your staff report so that I can ask my additional questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions at this point? Martin? You're muted.
My apologies.
That's $10. That's $10
I
so
know
far.
it's going 20. I can see it going 20 today. Morning, Clinton. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. All these concerns about maybe circumventing a plan of subdivision by just putting these 3 lots up. With a pond in the Camp Creek, there's not really any more room to put any lots up there, is there?
It's pretty slim, to be honest. Yes. You might get one other lot there, but if there was further development on that parcel, it would actually, it would have to involve a plan of subdivision process, because it would require an internal road at that point. And so to create what's in behind these lots, to get away from that environmental protection area and floodplain from Camp Creek. So at that point, it would require a more scrutinous process, because if you're building an internal road that you're expecting the township to assume, it's going to have a lot of scrutiny. The road frontage that's left after these 3 lots, like I said, there might be room for another one on the far eastern end, but I can't say for sure.
Well, no, you can't say no, but
without
just by that little sketch, it doesn't.
It's certainly not part of this application.
No.
If I saw more applications coming forward by the same owner, I would certainly be questioning why they didn't apply for it all at the same time. And I would make sure they had ample justification for anything coming forward, because the township doesn't want to see it just stripped along the road. No offense to the people along the side of the south side of the road, but that's exactly what we don't want to see, is just them stripped along the front there. And then there's actually quite a significant parcel behind those lots that is vacant, that is just sort of a treat area. And you can see that in my report, where under the property location there, the aerial photo, it shows it quite clearly. On the south side, there's a number of lots that have been stripped off the front without a plan of subdivision. They would all been consents done in the past. But then they left these little access lanes for this very big lot at the back that's essentially wasted from the perspective of potential development to create an orderly development, and use the get the most out of the land that you are putting into residential. So to see it further done on the north side of the road, it wouldn't be my preference. Again, they're allowed up to 3 lots without going through a process, so I can't really say much about that.
About that, yeah.
We wouldn't want to see that further. There was a comment in the public comments about the 50 acres to the east, and if you look at the aerial photo in my report, page 1, that actually 50 acres is outside of the settlement area of Varney. Okay, so because of that, it doesn't qualify for any severances because it doesn't meet that test. This parcel was placed in the settlement area of Varney, and therefore that's where we want to direct the growth. There you go. You can sort of see it there.
Yep.
The larger 50 acres to the right of this, they couldn't get a severance, but this one on the left is within the settlement area, and therefore they can. And that's how policy works. So at some point in the future, Varney may expand, and that 50 acres might be included, in which case they would be able to develop. But at the present time, that isn't the case, and so we're limited to what we have here.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to address that comment. Yeah.
Well, that's good you did that, Clinton, because when I first read this the other day, I was like, 3 lots, and then looking into it, yeah, settlement area, totally different. So a lot of people might get that misunderstanding. And you said there is definitely going to be a drainage, engineered grading and drainage plan for these? Because it goes downhill.
Condition 3. Condition 3. Well, first you've heard comments from the Public Works Department indicating that the ingress and egress, as well as the sloping of the lots, will need to be addressed because they are up higher. And so condition 3 is that I'm suggesting is that an engineered grading and drainage plan be provided to address stormwater management and the ingress and egress concerns that is satisfactory to the Township Public Works Department and the Chief Building Official. Because between the two of them, they will review that and make sure that it's going to comply with the Drainage Act, etc. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions before we ask Clint to do his report? Okay, Clint, maybe you go through your report. That might answer a lot of questions, please.
Okay, so Alicia went off that the proposal was for 3 1-acre lots on a 23-acre parcel. So it's consents B8, B9, and B10. There's also going to be a zoning public meeting coming forward this afternoon, which would implement any further consents. Because right now, yes, the subject lands are within the settlement area in the official plan, but they have yet to be rezoned for anything. They're still considered to be in the A2 restricted agriculture zone, and that's the restricted agriculture is simply just to prohibit intensive agricultural uses from being established on the property. So there will be no hog barns ever on that piece of parcel or piece of land. So in reviewing the policy, it is within a settlement area. The PPS directs growth to the settlement areas, and they've prepared an EIS, and it has been reviewed by the Conservation Authority and been found to be acceptable. And subject to them addressing the grading and drainage concerns and the ingress and egress issues, I think it would comply with the provincial policy statement, in my opinion. The township official plan likewise indicates that it's within a settlement area. That settlement area has specific policies in section 5.3, and it requires that there's a maximum density actually within the settlement area of 1 unit per acre. The original proposal actually had these lots as, I believe, half-acre lots, and I sent them back and said, no, they have to be larger to meet the minimum density requirements. So they came back with 1 acre lots within the settlement area. So that's what you have before you. And again, the EIS was prepared and reviewed and found to be acceptable. So in my opinion, it does comply with the township official plan, subject to that providing the grading and drainage plan. The zoning bylaw, the lands are zoned environmental protection and restricted to agricultural right now. The proposed zoning would zone the severed lots as the R5 rural residential. It's a rural community residential zone. The EP lands would essentially remain the same unless the Conservation Authority wanted to change some of those boundaries a little bit. We would alter those. And then the retained lands would stay as an A2 exception, and that exception would recognize the reduced lot area of the lot in the A2 zone. It's I believe it's 100 acres. So you'd be making it smaller, and therefore you would have to recognize that in the zoning bylaw. So based on all of that, it does conform with the policy, and subject to meeting the conditions that I've put forward in my report, I don't see an issue with granting the approval at this time. I do think it addresses the concerns of the neighbors such that the safety of the road is taken into consideration, as well as the grading and drainage for additional uses. As far as the fear, if you want to call it, of further development, I can only allay that so much. I can, if I see something come forward, we can't stop owners from bringing proposals forward. I can tell you that the frontage on this property is rather limited once we deal with these 3 lots because of Camp Creek and the amount of environmental protection and floodplain there is along the frontage. As I said, there may be a potential for 1 or 2 additional lots, but it's unlikely. And if the same property owner came forward with those, I would question them as to why they didn't bring them forward at the same time to develop it on a comprehensive basis. And if it's inland, obviously with an internal road system, it's obviously going to be a plan of subdivision at that point. So I think I've addressed them all. Hopefully you think so too, and agree with my recommendations for approval subject to the conditions.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Any further questions from the committee? Barb?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll get to you, Allie. We'll get
Okay.
to you. Don't worry.
I'll reserve. I'll yield to our any objections or any in support of. I'll
Okay,
wait till
but
the
I'll
end,
ask.
Chairman.
That's fine, but I'll ask any other committee members questions right now. You'll have another chance later, but right now, is there any further questions for Clint? Okay, so we'll move on then to, is there anyone here in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application? Hearing none, are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this application? I presume, Ms. Livingston, you'd like to speak?
I just had a concern regarding the estimation of the drainage and grading. If it takes into consideration the necessary deforestation that will happen during the building of said properties, only because we're directly downhill from where the property just to the west. And without the trees, there's not the, the absorption, and I worry about, is that what grading takes into consideration, the necessary, structures to adhere the hill in place so we don't have runoff coming down the hill?
Good question. I'll direct your question to Clint.
And I'm going to deflect that question to our chief building official, Mr.
There's Bev.
Fisher.
Sorry, Bev, I didn't see you there. Good morning. If you'd like to address that question, please.
I'm going to respond with normally the SVCA, because they would be involved in this, would recommend that silt fencing, et cetera, is put in place during construction. Other than that, there really isn't much to require it unless the builders feel that they should be doing it. And of course, if we did see water coming across on the neighbor's property, then we could move on the building code that they're not allowed to put water onto a neighbor's property and mud, that kind of
thing. Okay, thank you, Bev. Ms. Livingston, do you have anything further?
That's just sort of my concern, because once that's granted, if there is such a snafu that the property is negatively impacted, like how do you control such measures? I mean, our property, we have a creek running through it. We've got the ponds. It's not illustrated on the map that was submitted in the package, but we are directly down the hill. There's a steep elevation up to the, I guess, the first admitted property or the proposed property on the east. But that's just my concern. I don't know how such development works. So I'm not in opposition of the project. That's my concern.
Yep. And rightly so. Clinton?
And that's part of this concern is part of the reason why I've asked for the engineered grading and drainage plan is I'm not an expert in grading and drainage by any stretch of the imagination. And therefore, we do want an expert to design a proper grading plan and drainage plan so that it's not going to run off onto your property. It will be designed such that it either flows to a ditch or to a roadside ditch or some other retention pond. That would be my thinking of how it's going to be designed from a engineered grading and drainage, but I leave that to the engineers to figure out.
Okay. Any other comments, Ms. Livingston?
Yes, well, because our property is, 3 ponds and a creek that flows through them, any ditches will lead into the creek, right? Like all the water is affected. Yeah. So just a concern, right? We have such a special place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's,
that's very much a valid concern, and that's what the engineered grading and drainage plan, and that's not just for the construction phase, that's for the as-built phase to make sure that the water goes where it should go, not onto your property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions from committee member, or is there anyone else that wants to speak from the public on the line? Okay, not hearing any. Any further questions or discussion from committee members? Barb, you had something? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair Milne, to Clinton. So it seems to me that the slope and the potential for future conflict regarding drainage is real. And we have recently experienced issues with engineered drainage plans. I'm not saying that will happen in this case, but where houses are already built, but we're trying to address where does the water from the property go if it can't go in a certain direction. And so, yeah, I'm trying not to bring in other files, but I think that that there is a genuine concern, and the drainage plan needs to be fluid, pardon the pun, with water after the fact. So there needs to be some recourse for when or if the drainage plan fails. And we don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that the engineer's plan wouldn't work, but sometimes it requires some tweaking once it actually is built. The other thing that I have concern about is about future development. This, applying for 3 1-acre lots to avoid the plan of subdivision, maybe that's not even the case and there will be no file. But Clinton, you may not always be at Southgate. You may choose to go on to bigger and better things yourself. So how do we put in place a mechanism whereby we can restrict, or perhaps we can restrict future severance or development on the retained parcel so that that can't happen? And the other thing that I wanted to ask is, why only 1-acre lots? Why not, like you pointed out on the south side of Wilder Lake Road, how there was that green space behind this ribbon of development, and they didn't have a plan of subdivision. Why not include the forested area behind the 1-acre lot to avoid future neighborly conflict? Thank you.
Okay, so the first one, the comment about comparing it to another file should never happen, especially in the case that I believe you're thinking about, which is an urban standard and not remotely the same as this law. The second one is these lots haven't been created yet. Okay. In the case of the other one, the other lots have not been created yet. So without that, these lots actually can't be built on because there's already a house there. So those lots don't exist until you meet all of the conditions. Okay. So there won't be a case where there's a permit issued and the grading plan isn't in place. Okay, so that has to happen first. With respect to the engineer failing or the drainage plan failing or whatnot, I'm pretty sure that's why engineers have insurance for that purposes. That's also why we have the Drainage and Drainage Act to seek recompense or whatever, or some sort of resolution if something has defaulted over time, or who knows what it is. It could be the property owner accidentally takes out a berm or something, and therefore it changes the way things happen. Who knows? But the point is, if it does fail in the future, there are legal mechanisms to address that if it's necessary. But I can tell you that when an engineer designs it, they do design it to make sure that it does meet the requirements of applicable legislation. So that's about all we can do in any situation. We can't plan for the what ifs scenario in every instance. We can do some initial review, and that's why the concern particularly about the ingress and egress and safety concerns for the entrance. That's why we have Jim Ellis and the township reviewing those entrances to make sure that they are going to be safe for ingress and egress. If it's required that the banks be cut back or trimmed or what have you, then that's what needs to happen, and it'll be at the owner's expense to do that, not
Okay.
the township's, to make it safe, because that's the ultimate goal. The Public Works did note that it was at a 50-kilometer-an-hour zone, which is safer, if you
Yeah.
with respect to entrances, than if it's an 80. So, and notwithstanding, people do speed.
No, they don't.
That it's supposed to be safer. However, we're going to design it to make sure it can be as safe as possible with respect to the egress. So we will make sure it's designed for that.
Well, I have every confidence in our staff to make sure that the ingress and egress are to our satisfaction. Can you address the ability to restrict further severances or development on the retained parcel?
Sorry, I missed that one. Yes, in the zoning portion of it, we can actually include in the exception to prohibit further development except by plan of sub. You can't just prohibit further development, and nor do I think you would want to.
Mm-hmm.
But you can say there isn't going to be any more development unless you go through a plan of subdivision process.
Excellent.
So you can put that in the zone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Any further questions from committee? Okay, not seeing any. I'll ask, I need a mover and seconder to approve the recommendation. As you can see in Clint's report there, I'll just read it. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receives staff report PL 2021-080 for information, and that the severance be approved with the following conditions. A 3-meter road widening be provided to the township, a survey of the property be provided, and that an engineered grading and drainage plan be provided to address stormwater management and ingress and egress concerns that is satisfactory to the Township Public Works Department and the Chief Building Official, and that all outstanding taxes, fees, and charges are paid, if any. Would someone care to move that recommendation, please? Martin, seconded by? Jason, thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. We shall move to the next file, which I need to find now. Maybe Alicia, I'll lean on you again, please, to read the purpose, effect, and location.
Yep, so the next file is minor variance file A6-21 for Andrew and Melanie Needham. Legal description, concession 7, part lot 23, geographic township of Egremont. The purpose of the variance is to permit an accessory structure to be located closer to the interior side lot line. The proposal requires relief from section 5.1E of the bylaw, which requires an accessory structure larger than 14 meters squared to be 7 meters from the interior side lot line. Approval of this application would provide relief from the bylaw to permit the construction of an accessory shed larger than 14 meters squared to be located 3 meters from the interior side lot line. The required side yard setback is 7 meters.
Thank you very much. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of this application? Okay, not hearing any. Can I have clarification that the sign clarification that the sign was posted, please?
Yes, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Alicia. Is the applicant in attendance, and if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Okay, I'll ask Clint Stredwick, our planner, to review all comments received and present his staff report. Clinton.
Thank you, Chair Milne. I'm going to start with my planning report, and then I'll get to the comments just to give you guys a bit of an idea of what it's about. So the variance is to permit an accessory structure to be located closer to the interior side lot line. The proposal requires relief from section 5.1E of the bylaw, which requires an accessory structure that's larger than 14 meters squared to be 7 meters from the interior side lot line. And they want to reduce it to 3 meters from the interior side lot line. So in requesting a variance, the committee may realize that you have to satisfy 4 tests in the Planning Act to determine if a variance is appropriate and whatnot. So the first test is that it has to be considered to be minor in nature. So on large rural lots where development is over 150 meters from the side lot line in question, the reduction from 7 meters down to 3 is pretty minor in my opinion. It has to be, the next test would be, it has to be desirable or appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure. So if you're putting something there that's maybe not desirable to be close to somebody's property, something really smelly or whatever the case may be, then maybe reducing a setback is not appropriate or desirable. In this case, it's an accessory structure. It's a shed, basically. Those are permitted uses in the zone, and in my opinion, it's reducing it from 7 to 3 meters isn't going to negatively impact the neighbor. It's not going to impact the look of the property at all because the neighboring property is even larger. And therefore, in my opinion, it would meet that test. The next test is that it has to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Subject lands are considered prime agricultural land, which permits accessory structures such as sheds and whatnot. The official plan generally requires that drainage be addressed so that is not directed towards the neighboring property. The large size of the properties along with the 3 meter setback are, in my opinion, are sufficient to ensure that any runoff will not negatively affect the neighboring property. And therefore, in my opinion, it's consistent with the official plan and meets the test. And then the last one is that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, if not the precise provision. So the A1 zone permits an accessory structure over 14 meters squared, provided that it's set back 7 meters from the side lot line. And this is to avoid something called shadowing on neighboring agricultural lands, as well as to avoid that feel of just having a big, massive building right on your doorstep, basically. This is even more important in urban settings where lots are a lot smaller and there's less room, and so that you get a lot more shadowing. It's important on neighboring agricultural ones for the reason that they want the sunshine to grow their crops and whatnot, and if you're shading them out with your buildings, that's not good either. So the construction of a shed meters from the lot line, in my opinion, isn't going to severely impact the neighboring property, which is a 100-acre parcel. And therefore, in my opinion, it still meets that intent to not create a situation where you've got this big, massive building that's shading things out and just changing the look of the entire area. With large lots, you don't generally have to worry about that. So a 100-acre farm, you're not going to notice whether something's 4 meters or 5 meters off the lot line. So in this case, I think it still meets that intent and therefore would pass the test. So based on all that, it meets those 4 tests and therefore I'm recommending it be approved.
Thank you,
So-
sir.
So the comments received, we actually only have 3 comments received. The first one is from the County of Grey, and they indicate that provided positive comments are received from the SVCA, county staff have no concerns. The Public Works Department indicate safe access can be provided. It's a rural gravel standard, and it is a load restricted road. Again, it's a shed we're talking about, so they have no concerns. And then the SVCA comments indicate that the proposed minor variance application is acceptable to the SVCA. So that's all of the comments that I have on the file.
Thank you, Clinton. Any questions from committee members? Okay, not hearing or seeing any. Are there any others in attendance who would like to speak in support of this application? And likewise, are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in opposition of this application? I'll ask again to the committee members, are there any further discussion or questions? Barb.
Thank you, Chair Milne. Back to you, Clinton. This is a significant shed, not unusual for a farm. Was there any consideration given to moving it behind the existing shed and over to avoid the need for a variance? And if so, why was it determined that that wasn't suitable?
You are muted, Mr. Stradwick.
Sorry about that. I did look at it, and there wasn't a lot of consideration, I'll give you that. I do in general feel that if you can, it's better to keep buildings together rather than have them spread out all over the place. This is still quite a large property. I'm just trying to pull up here the actual size of the actual parcel. Where is it here? Does it say that? No. Anyways, I just felt that the actual parcel itself is quite a large parcel, and therefore, oh, there we go. It's on 31 acres. There we go. So it's still, to be honest, it's actually still considered an agricultural lot. And therefore, you want to keep those clusters as small as possible, so you're not taking any agricultural lands out of production.
Right. The other question that I have, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The other question that I have is, it's currently, they need more storage. Because it's on less than 50 acres and there would be no ability to turn that into a commercial enterprise or an industrial shop. It's strictly for storage.
Yes, it's personal use storage. There's
No fairness.
I
don't think we can speculate on what somebody might do with the property. We can only judge what's in front of us.
Yeah, I'm just commenting on what the official plan allows, and at the present time, it wouldn't allow for that.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions from the committee? Martin.
I have a question, Clinton, through the chair.
Yep, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you. Clinton, you mentioned something that I never thought about when you're looking at 3 meters or 7 meters, 10 meters, that idea of shadowing. I'm looking at the sketch. So there's no residences or other buildings to the side of it on the other property. That's just field, because there's nothing else on the sketch except what he wants to do. So an intriguing thing, the shadowing. I never thought of that. So it won't be an effect, put it that way, to anybody else living next door.
Not a significant one, no.
Okay, no, and thank you for that insight. As I said, I never thought about that shadowing aspect of the building so close to each other. It's obviously common sense, but thank you. Anyway, no more questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'll ask a final time. Any further questions from committee? Not hearing any. The recommendation is there in front of us. I'll read it. Be it resolved that the committee approve minor variance application A6-21, provided that no negative comments are received from the public. Would someone care to move that, please? Jim, seconded by Martin. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? Not seeing any opposition, I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. Alicia, please, can you read the next one?
Yep, so the next file, item 7.3 is minor variance file A7-21, Pamela and Jeremy Luxton, concession 3, SWTSR, part lot 210, geographic township of Proton. And the purpose of the variance is to permit an accessory structure to be located closer to the interior side lot line. The proposal requires relief from section 5.1E of the bylaw, which requires an accessory structure larger than 14 meters squared to be 7 meters from the interior side lot line. Approval of this application would provide relief from the bylaw to permit the construction of an accessory shed larger than 14 meters squared to be located 3 meters from the interior side lot line. The required side yard setback is 7 meters.
Thank you, Alicia. And I believe for greater clarity, this is situated in the downtown region of Proton Station. So, I see both. Lots of people for staff want to. Clinton, go ahead.
I'm not sure where Alicia was reading that from, but that appears to be the one from the previous minor variance.
Yes, yes, you're correct. I was reading the wrong purpose.
This one is
my apologies.
I'll give you another swing at it, Alicia, please.
Okay, we'll try this again. So for file A7-21, the purpose of the variance is to permit a garage to be located in the front yard. The proposal requires relief from section 5.1B and D of the bylaw, which requires a garage structure to be located in a rear or side yard. Approval of this application would provide relief from the bylaw to permit construction of the garage, with the building being in the front yard, 15 meters from the front property line and 9 meters from the exterior lot line. The required side yard setback is 10 meters.
All righty. But we are in fact in downtown Proton Station, I believe. So with that, I'll ask confirmation that the sign was posted, please.
Yes, the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Not here, so I'll now ask Clint to review all comments received and present his staff report. Clinton.
Thank you, Chair Milne. While I'm presenting my staff report, if Alicia could just bring up the first page of my staff report, which has the aerial photo just for everyone to look at while I'm talking. Okay, so there's lovely downtown Proton Station. The main reason for this it's how frontage and front yards are determined in our bylaw and in all bylaws for that matter. And it's basically they look at the smallest frontage on a on an open to maintain public road. And in this case, it's the Artemisia Southgate town line. It would be considered the frontage, and then measuring back from that is your front yard. In reality, the house is situated so that it appears to front onto Muriel Street, and therefore its access and things are taken off of that street. But from the bylaw perspective, its front yard is actually along Artemisia Southgate town line. And so if they're wanting to build a garage to the left or to the north of their house, that obviously isn't going to work with our bylaw. And that's the whole reason for this, is to allow this change to happen. There, obviously, if they put it right up to this garage right up to the road of Artemisia Southgate town line, some of the neighbors might actually get a little concerned, because you've got this big garage that doesn't really meet with the streetscape, right? You typically want to see nice houses and whatnot, not a big walled garage. So that's why there's a setback associated with the frontage for this proposed garage, as well as setbacks from the exterior side yard along Muriel Street. So again, you have to review the 4 tests for the minor variance that's in the Planning Act. So the first one, is it minor in nature? As you can see, the subject lands are about 7 times larger than the other lots immediately adjacent to it. And from that perspective alone, how it's developed is going to be different than how those individual lots are developed. And so provided that the garage is set back at least, I believe it says 15 meters in my report from the front lot line, it's my opinion that having the garage in the front yard will not impact the streetscape and whatnot, and it can still be considered minor. It has to be appropriate development is the second test. A garage is a pretty standard use in a urban setting, such as Broughton Station, and therefore I would say it meets this test. Third one is the official plan. Now, the official plan actually has these lands as rural and hazard lands, because Broughton Station is no longer considered a settlement area for the purposes of our official plan, and therefore we go by the rural and hazard lands designation. That being said, it doesn't speak specifically to front yards and that sort of thing. It talks about permitted uses, and again, garages are permitted use. So based on that, I would say that it does meet the intent of our official plan. It's not within any sort of drainage catch basins or anything like that. And then the last one is it has to meet the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Now, it's currently zoned R5, which allows a single detached dwelling, a home occupation, a bed and breakfast, and uses, buildings, and structures accessory to the permitted residential use. So a garage is considered accessory to the residential use and therefore permitted on the property. It's just the location of that. So the main purpose of prohibiting accessory structures in your front yard is so that people don't clutter their front yards in urban settings, so that it creates a nicer streetscape and people want to walk down the street as opposed to drive quickly by. So when you do propose something in the front yard, you have to make sure that it's not going to negatively impact that. And for that reason, that's why I've suggested they still maintain a 15-meter setback from the front lot line, and that's 50 feet. That's quite a ways. If you're walking along a streetscape, something set back 50 feet, that's pretty good. And therefore it would limit its impact on that. And for that reason, I'm suggesting that it's not going to negatively impact the streetscape. It's still going to be, the parcel itself is still going to be reviewed by the public as having access on Muriel Street anyways. So from that perspective, it still would be fine and meet those provisions and appear to be one contiguous development. So in my opinion, it would meet that test, and therefore I'm recommending it be approved. The comments we received are from the Public Works Department, and they indicate that the road drainage ditch needs to be reestablished and that it may require culverts with ditching work. The County of Grey indicate that they have no concerns, and the SVCA staff find the application is acceptable. Yeah, so provided it maintains those setbacks noted in my report, I have no issues with the variance.
Thank you, Clinton. Any questions from committee members? Hearing none, I'll ask if there's any in attendance who would like to speak in support of this application. Are there any in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this application? I'll ask a final time if council or if the committee has any questions. Hearing any, the recommendation here is in front of us. It be resolved that the committee approve minor variance application A7-21, provided that the garage is built no closer than 15 meters from the front lot line and that no negative comments are received from the public. Would someone care to move that, please? Barb, seconded by Jason. Second by Jason, thank you. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed? No opposition, so I'll declare that approved. Okay, I guess that's all, I believe. Is that correct, Alicia? There's no further files? That is correct. So the committee decisions may approved here today may be appealed within 20 days of the date of the notice to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Would someone care to approve or to adjourn the meeting? Motion to adjourn. Barb, seconded by Martin. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We now stand adjourned. Thank you all for attending, and thanks staff members for their help with the poor chair today. Thank you. See you this afternoon at 1 o'clock.